I'll be on the other side of the live.
Thank you, Angel.
Bye.
Well, here we are live. Well, welcome viewers to our college and career readiness workshop. We are offering through the SAIL program, which is a pre-college program from the University of Oregon. I'm Laura Fernandez. I'm the executive director and so honored and excited to have these wonderful presenters who join us every week. This week we have Sheree Houck, who is from the Churchill High School, the College and Career Readiness Center there. And Sheree has been a huge supporter of the SAIL program for many years and a very, very dedicated advocate for helping students like yourselves to figure out one of the most important things in your college journey is how to pay for college. So Sheree has an extensive background in financial aid, actually having worked at the University of Oregon for maybe 25 years. Sheree is it's about that. And now with the Churchill High School. And today she is going to share with us some information about scholarships and how to do a personal budget. The SAIL program really prides ourselves on our collaborations with the schools and finding as many resources as we possibly can to help our students navigate not only through this virtual time, but to navigate the college process. And we are very thankful to have all of our partners out there in the community join us. So Sheree, we welcome you today. Look forward to your presentation, and everyone watching, please put your questions into the chat at any point, and Sheree will save time at the end for some Q&A, and enjoy the presentation. Welcome, Sheree.
Thank you, Laura. As Laura said, I spent probably more years than I'd like to admit, about 35 in financial aid. I started my career in financial aid right out of college. And if there's one thing that I learned working with students is that budgeting matters. And that's going to be the topic or part of the topic of what we're talking about today. A lot of students say, oh, I'm kind of young to think about that. No, if you think about budgeting, just like you think about your personal health, the habits that you learn today are going to be the habits that you're going to take with you when you get to be my age. And your personal health that you start working on today is going to be that financial health that you'll have when you're my age. So you have something to look forward to, not only good personal health, but good financial health. And that's going to be the focus of what we're doing today. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and we'll go through just a few things here. When you start and you're talking about budgets, the first thing that you've got to know are the terms. You can't do anything without understanding the vocabulary. It's like that in every aspect of life. So we'll talk about a few terms. Yeah, it can be a little bit dry, but believe me, you will be glad later. First of all, what is a budget? Why would we have a budget? A budget is a spending plan that you're going to use over a length of time based on how much money you have. Basically, it's can I afford to pay for those things I need to pay given the amount of money I have? Checking accounts. Checking account no longer really exists for most of us. I don't think I write any checks anymore like back in the day. But we still call them checking accounts. And it's a bank account that lets you easily put money in and take money out. There's typically not a limit to the amount that you can take out as long as you have the money, unlike a savings account, which you earn money on, but you may not be able to take money out of it as frequently or as much on a daily basis as a checking account. I referenced us not having checks anymore, those little paper slippy things. Now most everything is done direct deposit, which means you sign up with whomever is going to give you money, and they're going to directly deposit the money into your account. When we're talking about budget, one of the big concepts of budgeting is credit. Credit is money that a bank or a credit card or the federal government, if you're getting student loan, lends to you to buy goods and services. Credit history, that is so very important. That's the personal health I was talking about. Your credit history shows a potential lender how well you've done paying back your debts. A poor credit history could mean that you won't get the credit you need, or you'll have to pay a higher interest rate. So there again, credit history, very important, just like our health. Credit score, that's a number that a lender, a bank, a credit union, a credit card company, the federal government maybe, uses to determine how much you can qualify for. So the better financial health you're in, the better credit score, the more you might be able to borrow when you need it, and the cheaper that money is going to cost. A cosigner. A cosigner is someone who says, well, I'll take responsibility. You're going to see that as you're young, and you may have a parent or a close friend who will help you to get you started. I'm sorry, I missed loan. And that's a sum of money. Everybody knows what that is. It's expected to be paid back with interest. When people loan you money, they're going to expect you to pay for it. And they do that in the form of interest. And interest is that fee that you pay, typically on a monthly basis, that the lender is going to charge you for the luxury of using their money until you pay it back. It is their money. You're just borrowing it. The interest rate is the percentage that a person receives on their savings account if you have one, or that you're paying on your loan or credit card. The interest rates can go anywhere from 0% to well over 25%. That is oftentimes based on your credit score, because there again, I've got to say again and again, the better your credit score is, the cheaper money is going to be. You start your good health now. Principal is the amount of money that you actually borrow. So if you borrow $1,000 on a loan, your principal is going to be $1,000. You will end up paying more because you're going to be charged into interest, the cost of that loan, but the principal is what you actually borrow. As you're going to college, you may see subsidized loans and unsubsidized loans. Those are federal terms. What those mean is, with subsidized, the federal government actually pays the interest on the loan for you as it's accruing, meaning as it's adding up on the money that you are borrowing. That's why it's a part of a financial aid package. It is subsidized by the federal government. I couldn't go and get a subsidized loan to buy a car or buy a house. This is specifically the federal student loan program. Unsubsidized means the lender is not going to cover the interest for you. You as the borrower will do that. So it's a much more expensive loan. Origination fee. That is a fee to set up the loan. No, it isn't free to go get a loan and then pay interest. So you are going to pay a few more fees, and one is called an origination fee. That's just a big term for processing fee. That's all that is. A promissory note. Anytime you take out a loan, I take out a loan for a car, my house, whatever. When you take out a student loan, you're going to sign a promissory note, and that's your promise to pay. It is legal. And it will tell you all of the terms of your loan, the interest rate, when the payments are due, how much you're borrowing, how much you will pay back over the life of the loan. The life of the loan is how long it takes you to pay it back. And deferment, we'll talk about deferment, cancellation, all of those are in your promissory note, my apologies. A deferred loan, luckily with federal student loans, you can defer them if you're in a period of hardship or unemployment, and that's what that period is. A grace period is a period of time before you start making payments on a loan. If we're talking about student loans, that's 6 months after you drop below half time. But oftentimes when you get a personal loan, like a car loan, a house loan, or even a personal loan, they'll give you a month or two to get settled in before they start asking you for your payments. Capitalization, that's a toughie. When interest is capitalized, that means interest has been adding up on whatever your balance is on your loan. And then whatever is added is then added to principal. And principal, as you remember, was the amount of loan that you actually borrowed. So essentially you end up paying interest on interest. That loan can get very expensive very fast. And that can be the case for your student loans when you're taking out an unsubsidized loan or you're putting your payments off and the interest is capitalized. So very expensive, very fast. Default is any time you do not make your monthly payments. What can result in that is the lender, whomever that is, tells one of the 3 credit reporting agencies that, hey, this person is not paying their bill on time, and that will make a negative mark on your credit report, and that will make your credit history and your credit score lower. There again, you want to try to keep your credit score as high as possible because that will determine the amount of money that you are able to borrow and how much you are going to pay for that money. That gets really important as you decide you're going to buy some consumer goods like cars and homes and things like that. Budgeting. Okay, everything I've said takes us up to our next point, budgeting. Just do it. It seems like a lot of work, but I guarantee you, once you have a system in place, it's going to be easy. And most of us carry around these little things that are computers in our back pockets. You would be amazed at what these can do as far as budgeting. Very, very easy. Not like the old days when we had to put it on pen and paper, although you may choose to do that. Sometimes it's nice to write it down. But keeping track of all your spending, it may seem like a lot of work. I know it seems like a lot of work. But as I said, if you're organized and you keep really good records and you do it on a regular basis, it's going to become second nature and you're going to wonder, why didn't I do this before? And when you're budgeting, you need to record your actual expenses. You want to get a handle on where that money is going. And that's why these become very, very important. There are a lot of apps. I'm not going to market any apps. You can look and find one that works for you, but there are a lot of them where you can actually track your expenditures on your phone. Sometimes when I don't want to take care of my paper, I'll take snapshots of my receipts. But you want to do whatever you need to do, however you choose to do it, to track expenditures like coffee and movies and snacks and parking, because those will get really big really fast. Monday's coffee will turn into Tuesday's soda, which will turn into Wednesday's bagel, which will turn into Thursday's parking because you got up too late to ride the bus. And by the end of the week, before you've known it, you have spent a lot of money that wasn't in your budget. You want to organize your records too. It'll be a lot easier if you know where your money is going, if you're organized. So doing it on a monthly basis, doing it on a weekly basis, doing it every 2 weeks. If you get like me. I do it so frequently. Sometimes I think my bank is going to charge me money for logging into their app. I just want to know what I have at every given minute. But once you get into that routine, you're going to find, just like anything else, it's going to become second nature. You want to include in your budget, when you are budgeting your items, an unusual category. And what I mean by that is, life is unpredictable, and we all know that really well. Who would have seen this coming a year or two ago? We just didn't see this coming. Well, that happens in life regularly. So when you're working out your budget and how much money you have to pay to different things, make sure you're keeping a category called unusual or unexpected, whatever you want to call it, and keep some money reserved for that, because you don't know when something's going to happen, and you don't want to be caught short with absolutely nothing, no money, when you've got an unusual expense that comes up and it could affect your life negatively. Review your spending often. As I said, I review mine all the time. Because I will admit I'm really bad about getting coffee when I go out, because I love my coffee. So it's always my treat. I can't pass the Dutch Brothers without wanting my coffee. And if I didn't watch what I was doing, I would spend a lot more on my coffee than I really should, where that money could be used to pay down something that I'm paying interest on. Consider packing your lunch. It costs, what, $5 to $10 to eat out now, and that's at a fast food place. So you think about, oh my gosh, what am I doing to my financial budget, much less my health, if I'm doing that, where I can pack a lunch and spend half that amount or even less. Look at ways to manage and reduce your transportation and entertainment costs. I think we've gotten really creative lately. Since we've been more quarantined, we can't go out to movie theaters anymore and pay $8 for a movie ticket. So we're finding other ways to entertain ourselves. When we are open for business again, take those lessons with you. Do those things that you've started doing while you couldn't go out, so that you're not spending the money that you would spend on entertainment. I know in my family, we have saved a lot just by not going to movies. And we've been watching Netflix and doing things like that that keep us amused, reading some good books, but not spending the money. Comparison shop. Now, if you're a shopper like me, this is actually fun. And I comparison shop for everything. I think I drive my husband crazy because I can't make a decision unless I've looked for the best price everywhere. You don't have to get as fanatical as I am, but you do need to comparison shop, because it's amazing the wide range of costs for the same item. Now it's a little bit easier. You don't have to run all over town looking at different stores, but you can do it online. The same is true for textbooks. You don't have to run around and look for them. They are online. Credit cards. What can I say about credit cards and credit? It's a good thing. It's a really good thing, but it's a really bad thing, and can be a really bad thing. You just have to use it wisely, just like anything else. Having credit will help you build that all-important credit score I've been talking about. You can't really build a credit score without having some credit. So it is a really good thing. It's a good thing to start when you're young, to build that really solid credit score. What it can do for you, however, is it can cause you a lot of headaches if you are not managing your credit wisely. So you want to think before you decide to get your first credit card and shop for that like you would anything else. Now, I don't know how it is on campus now, but used to credit card or banks and credit card companies would come set up tables like in the EMU, and students would walk by and all they had to do was sign a piece of paper and boom, they got a credit score. Excuse me, a credit card. Well, that was nice, but before they knew it, they had a big balance on the credit card that was probably very expensive because they were being charged a lot of interest. And then they couldn't pay it. So be very, very careful. The credit cards companies are in the business of earning money. And the way they do that is by charging us interest. So they want your business. They may make it very easy for you to get credit, but very hard to pay it back. So buyer beware. Think about, is it really necessary, or would another payment option work just as well? If you receive a credit card offer in the mail, same thing as those credit card offers at the EMU, don't feel obligated to accept it. You'll get lots of those. Shop, take what you need, leave the rest, and limit the number of credit cards you get. It's very easy, there again, to run up those credit cards and have multiple ones and then find yourself facing huge credit card bills that you can't pay. Don't spend more on your credit card than you can afford to pay on a monthly basis. Good rule of thumb. That's where that budgeting comes in. You'll know how much you have to spend on certain items. If you buy something with the credit card and you pay it right away, awesome. That builds your credit, gives you a credit history, and allows you to become financially strong. Spend too much, don't make the credit payments, credit ruined. Kind of see my drift there. Don't want to spend more than you actually have. Now again, things are really easy. Most places will allow you to set up electronic payment reminders, balance notices. I know I get those all the time, billing statements, everything right on your phone. If you have it taken out of your account automatically, then you don't have to remember due dates. There's a lot of ways lenders have gotten pretty good at helping us be successful in how we pay back our debt. Tips for success. This is always an important area. You want to overestimate your expenses. There again, you never know when something might come up or an opportunity that might present itself that you want to take advantage of. Underestimate your income. If you're in a service industry, say where you earn tips or overtime or something like that, never bank on that as part of your income because you don't have control on it over it, and it can vary. Prepare for the unexpected by setting savings goals. When you pay for anything, make sure you pay yourself first. $1 that you save now is $2 you're going to have later. Differentiate between needs and wants. This is a big thing, and this is the thing that I talk to students about the most. We all want things. It's nice to have a very expensive cable or satellite package, but students don't have time for cable and satellite packages. They really need Netflix. It's really nice to go out and get our hair done and buy fancy things and be pampered, but that's really a want and not a need. And even in my life, I have to make those decisions. We all do it. It's something that we all have to do. It's not just a student decision, but you do have to differentiate between needs and wants. Use coupon student discounts. There's a lot of those out there. It's pretty cool. Take advantage of them. Yeah, you might have to have another app on your phone or look at another email or bring something up on your phone when you're out or download something. Sure, it might take a few more seconds, but use them. If you're traveling, carpool, make some new friends. I did that when I was in college, and the 4 hours we took to go to my friend's house, I made some lifelong friends, still talk to them today. It was really fun, and we saved a lot of money by carpooling. Shop at secondhand stores. Some of you may do it. It's kind of a fun thing to do. You don't necessarily need brand new things. Sometimes secondhand does just as well. As I said before, pay yourself first. When you're budgeting, make sure you have an item in your budget for savings, and be creative. Be creative for what you can do instead of spending money. Instead of going out to eat, be creative with what you can make at home. Once we're back together, be creative with who you can invite over and have potlucks. Be creative on your entertainment where you're having a Netflix or Hulu movie night rather than going out to a theater. Be creative with all of those things that you have control over. Scholarships. For every dollar of scholarship money you earn, that's about $2 you don't have to borrow, because remember that interest we talked about. Whatever you borrow is typically not what you're going to pay back, because you have to pay for the cost of that loan in the form of interest. So if you get scholarships that help you pay for your tuition fees, books, supplies, living expenses, then that's less money that you have to borrow. Here's an example of that. This is a sample of a student's student loan payments over a 6-month period of time. If you see the student has made 6 payments totaling $690.36, that's a chunk of change. But this student has only repaid $297.07 on the principal balance of their loan. Now, remember when we talked about principal balance of the loan, that is the amount that you actually borrow. So this student has paid almost $700, but only paid about $300 of what they actually borrowed. The rest of it went to interest, the total cost of that loan. So you can see, by not borrowing money, by being able to replace it with scholarship dollars over the life of the loan, or the time it takes you to repay that loan, you are going to save a lot of money. Okay, where do you find them? That's always the question. Where do you find scholarships? Well, the first place is college and university websites. All of them have them. Colleges and universities, their job is to get people in. They want you to go to school there, and they are going to help you. So make sure you are not overlooking the websites to the colleges and universities themselves, looking at the type of aid that they offer, looking at the scholarship deadlines, looking at the processes. Online matching services. There are a lot of those, and at the end of the presentation, I've got some links to some that are very good and very reputable. With those, you're going to fill out a lot of questions about you, who you are, what your background is, what your parents' background is, what your grandparents' background is. Lots of questions that will match you with a very, 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 very large database of scholarships. Scholarship websites. We have several really good ones here in the state of Oregon, and I know Sales shares those with you. They're also at the end of my presentation. Religious, civic, and community organizations also give scholarships. All you got to do is ask to find out. Private foundations. And the military. There are several that the military will give. I was looking at the VA website yesterday, and I will be the first one to tell you that I had a hard time finding what I wanted, but I found it for a student that I'm working with whose mom is on active duty, and we were looking for funding for dependents of military. It is there. So lots of different opportunities. but it is going to take work. And just like with budgeting and getting organized, applying for scholarships, you need to approach it in an organized way. It will cut down on your stress and it will improve your chances. What I do is offer and recommend to help students get an email that is separate from your school email, because if you're in high school, your school emails will go away when you graduate and you may miss something. We all get a ton of email. So if you create an email specifically for the college and scholarship search, you may be less likely to overlook something. Email is the way most places are going to communicate with you. So just make sure you have one that you check. Use a scholarship tracking worksheet. I did give Laura a scholarship tracking worksheet I use while working with students at Churchill. Just like with budgeting, and I'm going to go back to this over and over and over, the more organized you are, the better it's going to be. So if you're tracking the scholarships you're applying for, you're really going to reduce your stress, because you are going to need to know certain things. You're going to need to know what the application requires. You're going to need to know the time frame to apply. You want to give yourself plenty of time. You're going to need to know how to apply. They're not all the same. You need to know deadlines. You should create an activity log. Basically, what have you done? What do you do outside of the classroom? And that can look like community service, but it can also look like you tutor your siblings when you go home after school, or you babysit them until your parents get home, or you go grocery shopping for your grandparents once a week, or you do your neighbor's yard. All of those activities outside of the classroom. Create a list of unique traits and search scholarships by those traits. My best friend happens to be left-handed. She got scholarships for being left-handed. That was her trait. So she looked it up, and lo and behold, they were there. I have a friend that got one for being tall. They are out there. So make a list of your unique traits. That also will serve you well if you are asking for a letter of recommendation and you want someone to speak to those traits that may not be showing up on a transcript or test scores or something like that. Get a copy of your transcript from your school. Where you get it will depend on what school you go to, but have that ready so that you can very easily fill in classes and credits that you've taken without having to recreate that in your head. Save yourself some time. Set aside work for the applications. To think that you're going to do it on a weekend might be a good starting point, but these really will require more time than that, and they deserve more time, because there again, we're talking about dollars. We're talking about the investment in your future, and when I say future, I mean long-term future, because there again, the more scholarship money you get, the less you have to borrow, the more you're going to save. Understand the terms and criteria for scholarship. This can get kind of tricky. What I always tell students is whoever gives the money sets the rules, and that is the truth. So you can look at different scholarship opportunities and their terms mean different things. And these are an example. Typically when a scholarship's donor says their scholarship is based on need, they mean Pell Grant eligible, the federal grant money that you apply for when you fill out your FAFSA. But that isn't always the case. So make sure you're reading that very carefully. Sometimes donors are saying need is, do you have enough money from all sources to pay for your college education? Diversity does not always just mean racial and ethnic diversity. There again, that goes back to what makes you unique, what makes you tick. Overcoming adversity can have very many meanings. We all have a story, right? I have a story, you have a story. Tell yours. Tell who you are. Activities, as we were talking about, includes everything you do outside of the classroom, both informal and formal. Students tell me, oh, I didn't join any groups. I didn't do a lot of community service. And I ask, well, what do you do when you're not in class? And sometimes, well, I had a job and I work 30 hours a week, and then I keep my siblings and I'm on a sports team. So it's anything that you do outside of the classroom, not just those formal things. Give yourself the advantage. Apply for local scholarships. The applicant pool is smaller. In Lane County, we have a lot of those. Make sure whoever you're working with can help you find those, someone at your high school or wherever you may be. Know exactly what the application is asking for. And what I mean by that is if the application is looking at your character, it's based on who you are. Sending them a letter of recommendation that talks about you as a student is not going to answer what that application wants. So know exactly what that application is asking for. Apply for as many as possible. The more you apply for, the more chances of getting them. Will you get all of them? No. Is that disappointing? Absolutely it is. But you won't get them unless you apply. Apply for scholarships with smaller awards. I often hear, well, I'm not going to apply for the ones that are $250 or $500. Don't do that. Do it. Do it. Apply for scholarships with the smaller awards. They add up. And I always tell students, okay, say you spend a couple of hours on a scholarship application and you get $500. How much is that an hour? More than I will ever make in my lifetime. And that's a pretty good rate of return. So do the smaller ones. The more work an application is asking of you, the fewer applicants there will be, simply because people don't want to put out that work. Don't be that person. And the better your chances are. So give it your all. Do those. Scholarships with easy applications typically have a larger applicant pool. Makes sense. I'm not saying don't do those, but don't just rely on those. Satisfy all the requirements. Be on time. Give them what they're asking for as far as the application and the supporting documents. Make sure you're sending everything in. You could be the best candidate that they've ever seen, but if you fail to satisfy one of the requirements, they're not going to consider your application. Proofread, proofread, proofread. I can't say this enough, not just on any personal statements or essays, but the actual application itself. Look at how you've typed things in. Make sure you've used correct grammar and punctuation. I look at a lot of applications, and I can tell you for my student, if I see they haven't capitalized their name or the street they live on, they get a friendly reminder from me saying, hey, you really need to do this because somebody's going to read this and you want to show that donor that you are worth giving money to. Submit the application early. Get it off your plate. Reduce that stress. Get it done. Choose your recommenders wisely. It is very important that your recommender knows why they're writing you a letter. A lot of scholarships are going to ask for these. Make sure that you're asking people that, one, know you well, or that you can give them information that they can add to what they know, and that you're giving them enough time to do it. I myself write a lot of letters of recommendation, and I want to do the best job that I can. But I will tell you, I'm going to do a better job if I have a week or two to write a letter than if a student needs it from me tomorrow. And if they need it from me tomorrow, they may not get it. That's just the way the world works. We all have a lot of work to do. So not only choose your recommender wisely, choose to a person that can speak to who you are and what that scholarship is looking for, and give them enough time to write the best letter possible. And make sure they know when it's due. watch out for scams. They are out there and they do look official, and just be careful. They often sound or look like they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. But if you're looking carefully, they typically have hooks, like they'll guarantee you money. No one can guarantee you money. I can tell you a scholarship that you might be a good candidate for. I can give you tips and tricks. I cannot guarantee you money, and neither can anyone else. If they tell you you can't find any information anywhere else, yeah, you can. The information's out there. You can find it. If you have to pay a fee for the scholarship, that's not a scholarship. If they will do your application for you, one, I would never let anybody do my application for you, but two, they're not going to do it well. So that's a scam. Or anytime they're asking you for personal information, such as a bank account information or a social security number, stay away from those. Now, might you have to do a little research and look at their site a little bit to find out if it is a scam? Yeah, you are. Just be very, very careful. And here's some resources. All of these are search engines where you can go and put in information and information will come back to you. And then all of these are, and then these two right here list scholarships. Now, I will tell you, there are more of these resources than I have listed here. These are the ones that I have used for years that are very good and are reputable. They are certainly not exhaustive. There are some search engines out there that you do pay a few bucks for. Some of them are good, but just from where I come from, as far as being in financial aid and now a high school, I just have a problem with you paying for a resource that you can get for free. If you choose those other sites, that's entirely up to you, but you don't have to, is what I'm saying. There's a lot of resources out there for you. It's just going to take a little time and a little work and a lot of organizing. And that does it for my presentation. I'm so happy to take your questions.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Sheree. This is such a topic that has just so much detail attached to it. So you really did a wonderful job of breaking things down and making them more simple. And this is now a recorded resource for people so that they can go back if they missed any of those details. So I appreciate it very much.
You're welcome. Complicated subject.
Yes, yes. Well, as we are looking to see if there are any questions in the chat, I was thinking a little bit more along with some of the things you were talking about is, you know, a lot of one of your first places to go for scholarships was to look at universities and colleges that you're interested in. And I want to just put a plug out there for students to be really, really aware that there are some subtle nuances that go on with scholarships. So for instance, the University of Oregon has an amazing program called Pathway Oregon. And many colleges have a similar type of program where a student actually, if they qualify, if their GPA is a 3.4 and they meet the income eligibility requirements, they get free tuition. And a lot of students don't necessarily recognize, or they'll miss the nuances to that kind of scholarship, because pathway specifically, you have to go to the university right away. You can't go to a 2-year college or community college and then transfer in and still get that same scholarship. So when you're looking at all of these different funding options, read the fine print so that you don't miss out. And I bring pathway up because I do have numerous students over the years who have missed out on 4 free years of college because they didn't read those fine prints. But scholarship opportunities are everywhere. So I love the left-handed one example because that they are out there.
Yeah.
Let's see, Josie. A question in the chats. It says, if a scholarship committee includes an interview, how do I prepare for that?
Great question. There's several ways. There's probably somebody on your campus, a counselor or a career center, that will do a mock interview with you. I know I do them with my students a lot, and let them know what the interview is for, give them the criteria for that scholarship so they know what types of questions that you might be asked, so they can ask you that and give you some feedback. So basically, practice.
That's great advice. Another question, I don't have a job right now, but is there any way I can start practicing using a budget?
Absolutely. Even if you don't have a job, you may have a little bit of pocket change, you have an allowance or something like that. Even if you're budgeting how to spend $1, you are budgeting. So absolutely. I gave Laura the budget sheet that I use with students, and if I remember correctly, it's going to be posted so that you can use that. You can use any you want. I just happen to like the one that I use because it's pretty straightforward. But yes, you don't have to have a lot of income to budget. And I would be willing to argue that budgeting is even more important when you don't have a lot of income. Because you really have to make sure that income is going to where it needs to go. So yes, do it. Good job.
Awesome. Thank you. This is kind of two questions in one. Do colleges care about your credit score? And if you do have low credit, can you fix that?
The answer to that first question is yes and no. No, to be admitted and for the student loans, your credit is not an issue. No one's going to look at your credit. If you needed to apply for a private student loans, those that are not backed with federal dollars, then yes, your credit score would be an issue at that point. We hope that that won't happen, that you have to apply for one of those, but it sometimes happens when you get to graduate programs. The second part of your question is your credit score something that you can fix? Was that it?
Yeah.
Yes, you can fix your credit score by knowing what is included in a credit score and doing all of the right things. And I won't go too deep into that because that's a whole different presentation. Yeah. But basically, if you are paying your bills on time and you haven't used a lot of the credit that's available to you, your credit score is going to be pretty decent. It's just when you don't pay your bills on time, and if you have a credit card or 2 or 3 and you've got big balances on them, then your credit score isn't going to be as high. So yes, you can fix it. It just takes a lot of time and diligence, but it's doable.
Awesome. Thank you. Somebody else asked about a budget template, and I think I will display that here in just a minute. But let's move on to another question, because yes, we have a great template for you that will Also, this presentation, for everyone who didn't catch, it is being recorded and it will be posted on our website afterwards, along with a budget template and a scholarship, how to keep track of your scholarships template. So those will be really helpful tools for you. Another question is, I know that no debt is best, but is it even possible to get out of school without any debt? I doubt I'll get any huge scholarships to cover everything.
The answer to that question is yes. Not everybody does it. And really getting a huge scholarship to cover everything is really the exception, not the norm. Most people do it with smaller scholarships that they've put together. And I'll tell you what I told students in financial aid. It's getting a student loan is not the end of the world. It's the beginning of your journey. So if you're managing that money well, if you are handling it well, it's not going to be the worst thing that ever happened. You just have to do it wisely. But is it possible to get enough scholarships? Yes, it is. You just have to look at all the different factors between the different schools and what Laura was saying, what they're giving, not missing deadlines. I have had that same issue. One of my students missed $6,000 because he didn't read his email. And so he didn't respond. So if you are doing all of the right things, then is it possible? Yeah, it's possible.
Well, then the next, that kind of goes along with the next question, is the cost of college is something that's keeping me from wanting to go. Is it even worth it, even though I'm probably going to have a big amount of debt afterwards?
Well, I'm going to reframe that question. Is anything you buy worth it? You are purchasing an education.
Good question.
And just like you purchase everything else, and there are ways to do it that can save you money. Sometimes students start out at a community college in Oregon and take advantage of the Oregon Promise. I've known students who take a class or two at a time and pay some of it out of their pocket and get a little aid for the rest and just go part-time. Takes you longer, but you know, everybody's going to wake up at 40 years old one day, and you can either say, I have a college education, or I don't. How you got there is not going to be as important. If you're looking for, you know, other trades and industries, yeah, those are out there too. But your education is an investment in your future, just like anything that you purchase to put a roof over your head or drive. And you know, I think most of us spend more time and energy thinking about what we're going to drive than our educations.
That is well said. You're right. How we invest in ourselves now is definitely going to affect our future. And the next question is in the similar vein of, I'm not sure I'll be eligible for many scholarships, so I'm worrying about paying for college without ending up with a ton of debt. Do you have any other tips or advice if I'm not eligible for a lot of scholarships?
Well, my question to you is, how do you know you're not eligible? If you haven't applied and you haven't looked at what's out there, you really honestly don't know. There's some things in life we can be sure of. I'm never going to be 6 feet tall. It's just not going to happen. What I don't know is, if I apply for a scholarship, will I get it? If you don't apply for it, you're not. You just won't. But there are so many out there that if you haven't started your research yet and maybe use the tracker and talk to the people that are available to you to talk about, you don't know if you're not going to get them. because there are a lot of scholarships based on different things. They aren't just for students with the highest GPAs. They aren't just for students that have the highest need. They are out there. You just have to put in the work. If you don't put in the work, then yeah, I'm right there with you. You're not going to get it.
That's another great answer. Thank you. And it's true. I know a lot of students who make looking for scholarships really a part-time or full-time job, basically. They dedicate time every day to searching for different scholarships. And I actually even recommend that students pop on to not only your own high school's college and career readiness center, because people like Sheree in every single high school post scholarships that are popping up all the time that aren't just the search engines, that are individual search engines. But I would recommend that you could even pop onto other high schools' websites and to their college and career readiness centers, and they post different things. I also know a lot of staff like Sheree in schools send out e-newsletters weekly or monthly that will have different kinds of opportunities. Read them, pay attention to them, make that kind of part of your job. It really is, looking for money for college really is a job because you're investing in yourself. We only have a few minutes left, and I wanted to show your budget template really quickly, and then we have two more questions. So let's do the two questions and then the budget template. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay. How can I make myself stand out in a scholarship application? And you've kind of talked about this a little bit. Anything you want to add?
I do. One, fill it out well. But if it's asking you for an essay or personal statement, tell your story. And I can't say this enough. We're all individuals, and a lot of times what we want to tell is not what we did, but who we are. And that's what a lot of donors are looking for. And it's not just enough to say, give a resume of what you did or a biography. I was born on this date and this time, and this is what happened to me. Show how that is part of you as a person and why they should give you money. What makes you tick? What gets you up in the morning? What will you contribute to the college you're going to, our society, to your community? Talk about you and your story. They don't want to hear just the underdog story. I had this, I skinned my knee when I was in third grade and it just affected the rest of my life. That's not the point. The point is, what did you do when that happened? How did you learn from that? And how is that going to help you in the future? Make yourself shine that way.
That's awesome. So in line with that, is there a limit to the number of scholarships you can earn?
Private scholarships, no. This is one of those things that gets a little bit tricky when you're talking about colleges' money versus private money. Colleges aren't going to give you more money than you actually have costs. It just works that way. But if you're doing private scholarships, then no. You can earn as much as you can.
That's awesome.
And I did want to say one thing, some very enterprising of my Churchill students did before we had COVID. They had a scholarship research group. They'd get together, I don't know, on Tuesday afternoons or something, and they'd all take a different website. And when they found something that fit one of their friends, they'd tell them, and then they'd share all of the information, and they use that tracker that I gave them. And now some of them are actually Zooming it and having little conversations and snacks, and they're taking their free time and making it work for them, but having fun while doing it.
That is a great suggestion to do this with a peer group. Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah, they're brilliant. I didn't think of that when they did.
Oh, well, thanks for all of your wisdom and input. And can you see my screen? I have your
Yes.
personal budget sheet. Do you want to? We only have actually we're at time, but if you want to take a minute to go over it real quickly.
Yeah, the goal here is just to keep track of what you spend and make sure that your income covers what you spend at least 100%, including putting money in savings. So at the very bottom, you want what you spent to be less than what you took in. And if it is you're negative, if you're spending more than your income, then that's where you need to do the reflection and look at what you are spending and revise your needs versus wants and maybe make some hard choices.
This is fantastic. I really, we will be sharing this budget. So very helpful. Well, Sheree, we really appreciate your time and expertise. Like I said, in this area, I know we will have more questions and work with you as we move on. But for now, everyone who's watching, this will be posted on our sale website probably by Friday. And we hope it was helpful to you. If you have any more questions, you can also reach us at salesstaff@uoregon.edu. So thanks again, Sheree. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you soon. Bye, everyone. Hang on, Sheree. I'm just making sure that we are done.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere till you tell me.
Streaming.